Hi, so in this video I'm gonna show how I created this shot inspired by The Last of Us TV show. I have made a similar shot like this, but that was all 3D and I wanted to learn more ways to create beautiful scenes and not rely solely on 3D. Integrating live action footage and 3D makes the job really easy. Obviously, everything has their pros and cons. Anyway, let's begin. So here we are in Blender. I'm gonna do some tracking of the footage. You can use any program to track. I use Blender. Jump into the VFX and motion tracking tab, uh, and let's open the footage. So downside is the timeline. First, you need to set the scene frames. Then just click prefetch. So Blender loads the video in memory for smoother playback. Now clicking on detect features, you see a bunch of points appear. These are tracking markers and Blender is detecting them automatically. You can obviously place track markers manually too. Now I'm gonna experiment with the markers. Basically, I want more markers. Now selecting the motion model to location and scale, as there is no rotation in our footage, and take the normalize. This normalizes the light intensity while tracking, and I have no idea about the math behind it. Now let's track the footage forward. Now we are in the last frame. I will detect features again and track backwards now. Somehow Blender didn't match the scene frames. The footage is much longer actually. So let me fix it quickly. I deleted all that tracking and then detect features again. Now it is set. Now track forward again. Same steps. Go in the middle and detect features and track forward. And now backwards. Now I'm gonna solve the camera motion and take the focal length, as I don't know the focal length of the camera in the footage, so Blender will guess that. Now click solve camera motion. 141. Normally value below 1 is considered good tracking, so let me refine it. Gonna filter tracks. Here I tell Blender that tracks which wander away after certain pixels, just select them and I will delete them. Then click on solve again. Now 27.9. Let's refine more. I'm gonna decrease the value now. Nice, 0.5. Track is successful. Now let's set the scene. Click on Set as Background. Now here I actually struggle, so please bear with me. It's trial and error for me, but this is actually not a difficult step. So I will select 3 markers and set the floor. Basically align the grid to match the perspective of the footage. I'll keep doing it until I'm satisfied. Great. Now I will select 1 marker and tell Blender that's the origin. And after I'm satisfied, I will click on Set Up Tracking Scene. And you see a plane and a cube is added by default, and Blender sets up everything. I'm still not happy with the floor. Yeah, looks good now. Now let's exit the tracking tab. Here is our scene. Let's see if the cube stays at the same place. Yeah, it is ticking. Now here I have this aircraft carrier I got from Sketchfab, and I'm going to break it. I will be speeding it up here because this is actually basic modeling. For the lighting, I used an HDRI, that's all. It's this rural something from Polyheaven. It matches the lighting of the footage, and then it was just rotating the HDRI to match the shadow in the footage. I used the cube to match it. Let me show it. Match the shadows pretty closely. And also experiment with the light intensity and you are good to go. I'm gonna make some sand piled up under the ship here using the Ant Landscape add-on. After making the sand, I'm now going to paint some details in Photoshop and then project it on our scene. Now that the paintover is done, I'm going to project it on our ship, and for that I will use a duplicate of the original ship, not the destroyed piece. I actually did a mistake. While breaking the ship, I should have done this step, then both ship would have lined up perfectly. The destroyed ship and the ship intact, which I'm gonna use for projecting only the paint overs. Here, as I said, I did a mistake. I'm gonna manually try to align the intact ship as closely as possible to the broken ship. Here I need to just join the gap. Remember, there should be no gap where you want to show the projection mainly, because if there's a gap there, then it will all be transparent. So in easy way, what I'm saying is, let me show by an example. Okay, so here I have two cubes and I set up a camera. Assume that those two cubes are our destroyed ship. Now add a material. I don't know why I added two materials here. I could have used just one. I'm gonna render out the scene and save it as a PNG. I'm gonna make a new layer and draw randomly. Now I will save just the layer on which I drew as a PNG. Now we are back in Blender. I will select both cubes and duplicate them and join them. Now I will apply a new material on these joined cubes, so this is our projection ship. Okay, so this doesn't look right. I will select the projection cubes and scale them very slightly. This still doesn't look right. Where's that cube text which we wrote and wires we drew? So we actually need to project it from view in the UV and wrap menu. Now see, it looks better, but the wires in the middle are still missing. Why? Well, because there's no mesh in between the cubes to project on, so it remains transparent. It only projects where the mesh is. So that's why I filled the gap in the ship. So you see here, I will fill up the area between the cubes. And now you see it works. I hope you understand now the logic behind. Let's continue now. I'll fill these gaps. It doesn't need to be super precise as we saw. We only need a mesh there, and also it should match the shape of our main object kinda roughly. I will extend it, that's it. We don't need to worry about the top. There's no paint over there. And then join the ship. Now we are back in our main scene. And I'm going to align the intact ship. So it's aligned. Now I will select the projection ship and use projection view. And there's our Paintover. Now I'm gonna do the similar thing to the sand. Here I'm going to add some cloth for extra details. There are a ton of videos on this, so this will be sped up. Okay, so here in Photoshop again, and I am adding some more details to the ship. Then I will project on the ship. I also added more cloth down below the ship, but later I removed them in the final version as I have other plans for the future with this. After this, I rendered out the whole sequence and just did basic color correction and put on the music and all that. So thanks for watching. I will upload more videos about tracking.